Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. And for those of you listening in for now the 22nd time, welcome back. So, this week I have a special episode for you all. I have a special guest that goes by the name of Jono from Australia. When you hear this podcast, it will be on my birthday. I'm recording this a week before my birthday so that I can put this podcast episode out ahead of time, and you guys will have something to listen to while I'm celebrating my birthday with my husband and my dog and some friends. So I hope you all enjoy the episode. Me and Jono talk all about his podcast and his experience making his podcast called Desperately Seeking. And I recommend that you all go check it out. Again, it's called Desperately Seeking, and the podcast is all about him trying to find his first boyfriend through the experience of online dating in the gay world. So we talk all about that. We talk about authenticity and genuineness in dating and how these are so essential in, the dating world to be successful, and how attractive they are as a quality in someone, genuineness and authenticity. And we talk a little bit about self-esteem, self-image, and how this applies to the dating world. So there's something in here for you all to take away. I hope you all enjoy the episode, and I will be back with you next week by myself to introduce a new topic to you. And I hope to be bringing many more guests onto the podcast again in the near future. So let me know what you all think about having this style of a podcast. It's my first time having a guest on here and interviewing someone, so still learning how this all works, and I'm sure I will get better and better at that. But let me know what you all think about doing this style of podcast where I have someone on here and sort of just have a conversation with them about something and bring up some topics that deal with coaching. So let me know what you think and enjoy the episode. I will see you all next week. Hi, you're listening to the Connect Your Health to Life coaching podcast. I'm your host, Seth Lusk. I am a self-image coach and empowerment coach with a decade-long background in working in the health, fitness, and nutrition industry. If you're anything like I was, or the way that my clients currently are, then you might be struggling with body image issues, self-image issues, or issues with confidence. You might be trying to figure out why you can't take the ideas that you have for living your healthiest and most fulfilling life and turn them into lifelong actions. So join me in this podcast as we dive in deep on topics of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. We're going to look from the perspective of an authentic and empowering mindset, and from self-awareness, self-love, and of course, how we can start taking authentic self-action towards living that healthy and fulfilling life that you know you're here to live. I'm going to bust through some of the illusions and myths that we've all been taught to believe along the way and offer you confidence and clarity. I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. So the only question is, are you ready to find out how you can start living your most authentic and fulfilling life once and for all? Then let's get started, shall we? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. For those of you checking in for the first time with us, welcome. So today I have something a little bit different for you than what I normally have. I have a guest speaker on. His name is Jonathan Bobbick, goes by Jono, and I found him through like a podcasting network on social media. And you know us gay guys, we have to find each other and support each other in our podcast. So we connected through both of us being, gay podcasters, and I found his podcast to be super interesting. It's all about his experience with dating in the gay world and trying to find his first boyfriend. So I thought it was a great idea to have him on the podcast today. We're going to talk about all sorts of cool stuff that I think you guys will find interesting. So Jono, welcome to the podcast. If you would
Thank you
just
so much for having me.
very, very welcome. Awesome. So if you would just give the audience an introduction of what you would like them to know about you.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm Jono. I'm 28 years old. I live in Melbourne, Australia. I'm currently studying social work full time. I was working in the fashion industry for a few years, but because of COVID, it kind of shook everything up. I ended up losing my job and then decided to start studying social work. And my podcast, Desperately Seeking, is about my dating life. And I started it 2.5 years ago. And before that, I had not been on a date, like basically at all. So I was really like, didn't know what I was doing wrong, like why guys weren't attracted to me. And so I thought I'd do the podcast as a way to A, like learn from my mistakes, and B, just like motivate me to put myself out there and not just like wait for someone to come find me.
Awesome. So, Jono, if you could take your entire experience over the last 2 years with going into the gay dating scene, trying to find your first boyfriend, and putting it into a podcast, one sentence, how would you describe it?
I would say it has been an experience that has taught me a lot more confidence within myself. And it's taught me to trust other guys more, that I don't need to be as terrified dating as I have been.
Awesome. Awesome. So before you did the podcast, you were fairly scared about guys and dating?
Yeah, I just like had like a lot of anxiety about it. I had some like real bad experiences when I was younger. And then I just like really thought that all guys were kind of predatory and only wanted one thing. And it was also like really overwhelming, like getting started in the gay community, because it can be very full on the dating apps. So yeah, all of that added together made me just like terrified to go on any dates. So that's why I just stayed home for 27 years.
So where do you think the idea of gay men being, or just is it just men in general or gay men specifically, that being very like predatory, where do you think this idea came from?
Well, I have spoken about on my podcast. I had like a couple of sexual assault incidents from like teenagehood to early adulthood. And they were kind of like the only experiences with guys that I had had. And so I literally just thought that all guys were like that. It sounds dumb now, but that's really what I thought, that like any guy given the opportunity would take advantage. And so I just didn't want to put myself in that situation. And then when I like log on to Grindr and the first message is always like super sexually explicit, and that kind of was just reconfirming what I believed.
Yeah. I would say no, it's definitely not stupid. Coming from a situation where you have been sexually assaulted to feel as if a particular group of people might be dangerous. I think this is a fairly normal reaction for people to have to a situation like that or a circumstance like that. Um, so what is it that you did for yourself to kind of prepare you to go into the gay dating world having that fear there? Did you have like a talk with yourself, or was it just kind of like shock therapy, just do it, or how did that work
Yeah,
for
I
you?
think it was just like immersion. Like I was just like, all right, I'm doing the podcast. I've got to get content. Like I have to go on a date to release another episode. So I've got to do it. So I just forced myself out there. I went on like one date an episode, so one date a month, um, and met like these new guys. And then after like the first year and a half or 2 years, by that point I was like really like more confident, and I'd learned a lot by then, so then it was easier. But yeah, at the start it was just go for it, deep breath, just try.
Yeah. I've already heard the episode from the first date on the podcast. So was that
Mm-hmm.
the first date that you had done, or had you had
Yeah,
other dates before the first one that you made the podcast about?
no, that was like the first date, first episode, like nothing is a lie.
So what was that like going into that experience on the first date, having that fear kind of there in the background? How did you manage that with yourself?
Well, I we had it at a bar, so there was a couple of pints of beer involved, which helped to ease the nerves. I think he was as anxious as I was, which kind of made it into the awkward, funny moment that it ended up being. But yeah, it was kind of just an anxious mess for the first date. I can't lie.
And this was the one that brought the bag of colognes with him, right? Didn't he? Or am I mixing
Yes,
up?
he brought like no, that's him. So he was like obsessed with perfumes. Like perfume was his passion. And he brought on the date. He's like, Jono, I've got a little gift for you to say thank you for taking me out. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. He rummages in his bag and he pulls out like a Ziploc bag filled with like 30 sample sized colognes. And he made me put them all on, like up and down my arm and on my neck until I was like coated in this stuff and could barely breathe. And yeah, he loved it.
He loved it.
He loved it on the fumes, but he was happy.
Oh man. Yeah, I remember listening to that episode and being like, "Oh wow, I'm not sure what I would do in that situation." I'd be like, "Excuse me, can I try these at home like when I want to? I don't think I want all of these on me right here in this bar."
I know, but it was like I didn't know what to say. I was just like, okay, I'll try another one, I guess. He kept saying like the next one was his favorite. I don't know.
So, okay. When would you say, how long into this did you start feeling maybe a little bit more comfortable in going on the dates? Like did you notice a period of time in which you didn't feel so afraid setting up the date and going to the date? Like some of that fear that this guy might be a predator was disappearing.
Yeah, I would say like 6 months in, like a date a month. So 6 months in, I was like, okay, I'm comfortable going on a date. I've done this before. It's just sitting down and having dinner. I can do this. But then there was still like sexual anxiety. And that didn't dissipate until I started seeing someone regularly for 4 months. And then he kind of taught me like confidence within myself. He was really helpful.
Is that in the podcast? I don't think I've gotten that far in the podcast yet. Where you started
It is in
dating
the
someone regular?
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it was last year. It was through COVID. He lived like a 2 hour drive away. And like in Melbourne, we were in full lockdown. Like you weren't allowed to go 5 kilometers away from your home, which I think is like 10 miles. I don't know. And then, but because I was like intimate partners with this guy, I was allowed a pass to travel the like 150 kilometers to his house. And so that was really fun, like getting kind of free of lockdown for a little bit. And having someone regular, it is great. Like I still haven't had a boyfriend. I just really want one because you just like feel so safe and more open to exploring when it's someone you know.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, we talked about this, when we had our conversation last week, that it's you mentioned the connection process with gay men or other men during the dating process was a challenge for you.
Yeah, like it not just being straight to sex. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like this whole thing that I think a lot of gay men out there can relate to this. It's like we have sex first and then we'll talk about maybe getting to know each other later.
Totally.
And then having, I remembered you said last week that there was this feeling that you you didn't have enough opportunity to have situations with these guys where you felt like you could get to know them and connect with them really. It was kind of like um, you can either go to a bar or you can be on Grinder.
Yeah.
And that the gay community doesn't really have this space in which we feel like we can, genuinely connect with another person.
Yeah, and that's especially hard like when like I was starting out. I'm sure there's lots of other guys like me where like I wasn't as sexually confident. I would have loved to have taken like 6 months or 4 months or whatever to actually date someone, get to know them, and then sleep with them if I then wanted to. But in gay world, it's sex straight up. Otherwise, you're looked at like you're frigid. I remember there was one guy, I waited 4 dates to sleep with him. And he literally by the end was like, are you serious? Like, come on, like, let's do this. Like, what are we waiting for? And that's really hard because promiscuous or like random sex doesn't make me feel good or as good as being with someone regular or someone that I cared about. And I just felt like I didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed this too when I was in the dating world. It was like um I wanted to get to know people, and I felt like if I had sex with them, that they would no longer be interested in getting to know me because they got what they wanted and then they just disappear. And so
Mm,
I wanted to like date these people, but it was like most of them, if you don't put out either on the first date or the second date, they're like, screw you, I'll go find someone else out who'll put out instead of you.
totally.
And so
Yeah.
then you feel this pressure like, oh, if I want to get to know this person, I have to have sex with them. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like this is, it's like the unhealthy opposite extreme of what I noticed in like when I was growing up in the Christian community, where it's like, don't ever have sex until you're married. And
Yeah.
to me, I was like, okay, come on, let's be realistic here. We're, young adults or late teens, we're like in the middle of our sexual hormones being completely crazy. And, you know, having, I feel like for me, kind of knowing how someone is sexually is also part of the relationship. So for me, I the idea of waiting until marriage to have sex was like, no, I don't want to do that. But at the same time, like, I
Yeah.
don't want to have sex on the first date or even the second date, or maybe not even on the fourth or fifth date. Maybe I want
Mm,
to wait a couple of months before. So that, yeah, that's a really interesting space to navigate in the gay
yeah.
community, I think.
And it's like, if you want to have sex straight up, then like all power to you. That's awesome. But there just feels like there's no space for anyone that has different thinking to that. Like, it's just like the dominant discourse of sex straight up, or you're kind of left behind.
Yeah. And you know what else I find very interesting is that I talk to a lot of people or a lot of guys in the gay community that struggle with this too. And so it makes me like I'm scratching my head. I'm like, well, if so many of us, would rather get to know each other instead of have sex first, why is it that we're having sex first? I don't
Yeah.
understand like why do we feel that pressure? I mean, I don't think we're like anomalies. I think that there have got to be a lot of other gay guys out there that would prefer to get to know someone before having sex. So I don't know. Why do you think that is? I don't understand where this pressure comes from.
I don't know. Like, maybe just because it's so accepted over time, and or maybe it's just like the people on the dating apps are just the ones that want to like root and boot, like a quick fuck, and that's it. And the ones that want to build like a genuine connection, maybe they've given up on the apps, and that's why I'm not finding any people like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess yeah, this could definitely be true. Also, I just had a thought come to mind. If you think about like I would say, even 80s and 90s when we were growing up, being gay was still very taboo. And
Yeah.
so like you didn't have very many opportunities to meet other gay men. And if you did meet
Mm.
them, it was like in this very secretive sort of way. And so I
Yeah, in a
think,
bathroom stall.
right, exactly. And so I think also part of this comes from maybe that gay culture sort of started as this sort of like seedy backroom secret, like sexual fantasy sort of relationship versus it being, romantic and dating. And maybe that
Yeah.
energy I think has just kind of carried down, even though I would say now in 2021 in most countries it's very socially acceptable to be gay. I mean, yeah, of course, we still have hate crimes. But I mean,
Yeah.
we also have hate crimes against different religions and different races. So homosexuality is not like exclusive in having hate crimes. But I feel
Mm.
like it's maybe that just hasn't caught up yet, that the gay community hasn't caught up to the fact that like this isn't something that we have to like do in the secret anymore. It's totally normal to be gay now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just also that like sex is fun.
Yes,
And
that
so
too.
people are just like, people like can't be bothered waiting. Um, and then or maybe and then like you think that's the expectation on the other person's behalf as well. So then you're like, well, okay, let's just do it if like we're both thinking that way. But it's worth like having a convo because maybe the other person is happy to wait as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is you hit on something really important here, having that sort of open conversation. And I think this is something that's, oh, I don't know, for some reason a little bit lacking in the gay dating process. I mean, as you said before, I think last week when we were talking, when you go on your first gay date, you're expected to like have this very in-depth like coming out story that's usually
It always goes to that.
right. And that's very personal, but then it's like the rest of the personal stuff, no, that's off limits. We don't talk about that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of interesting how that is.
Yeah, it's like a bit shallow. Like we can talk about the things that we have in common, which is like, bullying in high school and our coming out stories. But anything that's like more personal and things that aren't immediately knowable about someone, we kind of keep close to our chest. And we've all kind of like built this armor around ourselves, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I have a feeling this goes back to a lot of, self-confidence and self-image issues that I think a lot of gay men face, which I find to be also very interesting because, when people look at the gay community, especially like if you see the gay people that are on television, you have like the Queer Eye for the Queer Eye show, and then you have
Yeah.
like RuPaul's Drag Race. And if you look at all
Yeah.
of the shows that are on television that are celebrating the gay community, you see all these very like loud and confident gay men. And I think because gay men like have that community to like that sense that I'm part of this community, it's like we project this image that gay men are like super, super confident, because we're willing to come out, at least the ones that are out, or that
Yeah.
we're somehow super confident. But what I find to be interesting is that I think that confidence comes from having that gay community there to fall back on, but then like it's not actually there to fall back on. So kind of low key behind the scenes, I feel like a lot of gay men, they're very not confident. They project this image of like being loud and proud and gay, but then like in their own community where they're supposed to feel the most confident and know themselves the most, it's like they get lost in it. They don't know anymore. They're so
Yeah.
unconfident.
I I I have a bit more of a kind view on the gay community than maybe you do. I think like dating wise, yeah, like it's savage and it's like if you don't fit a particular look, then you're like worthless. But I think as a community, in terms of like rallying behind each other and supporting, I like to think that we're pretty good in friendship wise and looking out for each other's rights and stuff like that. So I think that like we can be confident within the community. Um, but yeah, you're right. Like dating wise, it's terrible. Like if you're not like that muscular, beautiful guy, or like some people are into like the more twinky people, but or like a bear. But if you're not like a bear, a twink, or a hunk, you're what are you? Like you don't even have a grinder profile. Like there's no tribe for you to fit into. So then people like aren't even searching for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And I do agree with you. I think that in certain aspects, as far as us making sure that, the gay community has a voice. And obviously I think, if I was out at a gay bar and some straight guy came in and started like bashing a gay person at the bar, everyone at the bar is going to be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, hell no." And
Yeah.
like we've got our backs in that way. But as you said, I think it's that sort of like underlying savageness in the trying to find your first boyfriend, trying to
Yeah.
prove to the gay community like I'm hot, someone wants me. And this
Mm,
this is I think where a lot of gay men lose their confidence is and their self-image is because like you said, it's if you don't fit in one of these three categories, then get out. Who are you? What are you
yeah.
doing here?
Yeah. God forbid if you're any sort of racial minority, like it's so much harder then.
Yeah.
There's so much racism in the gay community. And yeah, like that part is horrible. But it all comes down to internalized homophobia. And it's just like these people that are discriminating like that and like turning like people away if you don't fit the mold, they have their own issues that they're dealing with, obviously, because you
Yeah.
can't love yourself and love the gay community and then have on your Grindr profile no fats, no femmes, no Asians.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about this too, the femme shaming. This is something that
Yeah.
I've seen, you've experienced. I even, I
Mm-hmm.
heard a few times on your podcast episodes where you said that like you knew that the guy that you were going on the date with was, as you would say, like a little bit more masculine. So you tried to like dress more masculine and do your hair more masculine before going on the
Yeah.
date. And I find this to be really interesting that a
Mm.
community in which we celebrate like our drag queens and our the trans people in our community, that we're still somehow like shaming gay men for having feminine qualities. um,
Yeah.
and I don't think it stops with the gay community. I think this goes deeper than the gay community, but it's very prevalent in the gay community. I think just a man having feminine qualities in general is for some reason very frowned upon.
Yeah,
And
it's less attractive, like in
right,
quotes, according to other people.
right. And this is something that I've been working with myself and with some of my clients, is recognizing that all of us, men, women, non-binary people, we all we all have certain amounts of masculine and femininity within us, and that's
Yeah.
there's nothing shameful about the percentage of either or. And if you have more feminine qualities than masculine qualities, but you still identify as a male, that doesn't make you less of a man. And
Yes.
if you identify as a woman and you have more masculine qualities than feminine qualities, it doesn't make you less of a woman. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's something totally different. And
Yeah.
yeah, I find this really interesting that in the gay community, where we, like I said, we celebrate our drag queens, we celebrate our trans community, that we're still shaming each other about this.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I've learned to like about myself as well, is I was always trying to hide the femininity because like I've been so bullied in high school and adulthood for it. And then like dating, it just seemed like guys were only interested in masculine guys. But as like there are people that love a feminine guy, and like nothing is sexier than loving yourself and being confident within yourself. So if you are just like now I'm just like myself on dates, like I don't try and hide anything.
Can
um
you say
and
that for my audience one more time? There's nothing sexier than what?
there's nothing sexier than loving yourself 100% and
Yes,
having confidence in yourself. It's
absolutely.
so true.
Yes. I've been trying to hammer this into people's heads for like years now. Like it's all, and I know we hear it so many times. I feel like whenever I say it, I can hear the eyes rolling. Like confidence is sexy. It really is.
100%.
And it
Like because yeah, beauty comes in all shapes and sizes. Like even me personally, I have like had crushes on guys that are overweight, underweight, anything, but like tall, short, whatever. But as long as they're confident in themselves and their bodies, that's what I'm attracted to. I don't like, yeah, like if someone's big or small, they're still hot as long as like they work in their body.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm like, I remember when I was in the dating community, I would always have guys be like, "Oh, well, I don't think you'll be into me because I'm short." I'm a rather tall guy. You can't see it here on the camera, but I'm quite tall. And
Okay.
so these gay guys would be like, "Well, I don't know if you're into short guys," or, "Oh, you're like muscular and thin. I'm not sure if you're into bigger guys." Or the other one living in the US is, "Are you into black guys?" Like I would always get this sort of stuff, and I would be like, "Don't ask me that. Just be
Yeah.
you and know that that's attractive, and let's go on an effing date." I mean, like we don't have to.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's like, I can see what you look like. Like, you don't need to let me know that you're tall or short or fat or skinny. Like, obviously, I'm talking to you because I think you're attractive. So just have confidence within yourself.
yeah, exactly. I think this
But easier
this
said than done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, it's something that even I, as a coach that coaches people on their self-image and confidence and empowerment, it's a daily practice for me. It's something I get
Yeah.
up in the morning and I go to the mirror and I have pep talks with myself, because there are days that I look in the mirror and I'm like, Jesus Christ, Seth, look at you. You are a mess. And then I'm like slapping myself across the face, like, don't talk to yourself like that.
I love it. Yes. And actually, like, I was like always teased for being like too skinny. People would say, like, you'd be so hot if you would just put on like 20 kilos, which is so offensive. And now now I'm just like, F it. Like, I am stick thin. I can't help it. This is how I was born. And I'm going to take photos of myself half naked as an empowerment thing to show people that beauty comes in all shapes and sizes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, question for you. In the 2 years that you've been doing this podcast, what would you say is your biggest like aha moment about either yourself or the podcasting process, or both? One, if you have one for both, that you were just like, oh man, I never looked at it that way before, or I never recognized that about myself before, and now I see it, and that's cool.
That's a toughie. Let me have a think. Um, well, I guess like I don't know how to say this and not sound like a wanker,
Just say
but I just
it.
always, I always felt like, or and was taught that I was so undesirable, so ugly. Like I remember, I had to do like a thing in like religion class in school, and we had to write down 3 good things about ourselves, and I literally could not write down one thing. Like I had not one thing I liked about myself, physically and mentally. And going on these dates has actually taught me, oh, like guys do find me attractive. Like who I am and what I look like and my personality, like people are into it. And it's kind of now, it's like my choice on like who I want to date. I always thought that like as the first person that wanted to date me, I would be like, okay, you're my boyfriend. Like that's all. Like I can get one person. But yeah, like I kind of have the power, which is like still kind of shocking to me. And I still don't really believe it. But
So is this something that you like actively tell yourself now, like that you have the power in the situation, that you are attractive, and that you don't have to, the first guy that finds you attractive, you obviously don't have to like have a ring ready, you know?
yes. Yeah. It's something, especially like if I'm gonna like if I think there's probably gonna be a hookup involved in this date, like at the end, then I tell myself like if I don't want to sleep with them, I don't have to. There's nothing stopping me from just telling them, hey, look, actually, I'm not vibing this right now, and I'd really prefer it if you left. I have the power to say that, and it's like a bit awkward, but then I'm not in a situation where I'm sleeping with someone just like to make them happy.
Yeah. Do you find yourself being more willing to say things to people in a date that at the beginning you were like, oh no, that's too awkward. I could never tell them that.
Like not sleeping with them.
Yeah, like that, or just being like, have you ever walked in on a date before and just like sat down and been like, sorry, but no, I have to go.
Yeah, 100%. I
Yeah.
think that like you like I don't know if it's auras or energy or what, but like as soon as you see someone in real life, like you know if it's gonna work or not. Um, and that's not even physical. That's just like the energy that they have and whether it matches what you have. Um, and so yeah, I've definitely done that. But I don't just turn and run. I will like sit there and have like a 2 hour convo and like test it out. Um, yeah, and then it's the all right, talk to you later and bolt.
Yeah. I remember one time I had this experience, and I was doing the online dating thing, because where I lived, it was like gay guys were, they were so closeted that you couldn't really, there was nowhere to go to find a gay guy, so it was like you had to find them online if you wanted to find one.
That's horrible.
Like so there was this, I think it was the Manhunt website that I told you about. And so
Yes, back in the day.
yeah, way back in the day, because I'm like significantly older here. So um
I'm old too.
but so like this guy, we set up a date to go meet, and We set it up in a public place because I didn't feel comfortable meeting this person in like a private situation. And when I got there, I was like looking around and I couldn't find the guy. And
Stop.
no, I'm serious. And then he like raised his hand and and then I was like, is this the guy? And so I walked over and I kind of sat down and he was like, you look so much better in person. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, how old is your profile picture? And he was like, oh, it's from like 20 years ago. And
See,
I was like, listen,
dude.
okay, it's not that you're ugly, but I'm gonna go now because I'm very bothered by the fact that you're so uncomfortable with how you look now that you wanted
Mm,
me to think that you look 20 years younger to get me to come on this date. And I really don't
exactly.
like that. So I'm gonna say no to this. And I walked off. And
I love that.
I was so bothered by that. I was like, why would you try and like are you trying to like lure people in? Like, did you think I wasn't gonna notice that your picture was from 20 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like always conscious, like, oh, like I want to put the best pictures of me up, but I want to make sure that they actually look like me. Like, I don't want any filters or anything. The fact that this person's using a 20-year-old photo, like, if he had just had himself on there as he is, he would have still gotten dates. Like, it's the lying and the deception that people aren't into.
Right, exactly. And that's what I told him. I said it has nothing to do with how you look. He was actually attractive, but he looked nothing like the
Mm,
photo. And I'm like, you basically tried to lie to get me to come on this date, which means that like this is how you try and attract people is by trying to pretend to be something that you're not. And I'm not interested
yeah,
in getting to know someone because I can't even get to know you. You obviously whatever you
yeah.
tell I don't know now if whatever you tell me is actually you anymore or if you're just are you trying to like paint me a 20 years younger picture of yourself that you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, so bad. And yeah, I hope he's learned his lesson because that is so dumb. That has like the opposite effect.
Yeah. Have you had instances like this before though where you went on a date and the
Yeah.
person used, you know, like a picture
Yeah,
that
so this is, well, it wasn't a date. It was like a sex date. But I met this guy like on the street, and then we walked to my place. And when I met him, I was like he was significantly bigger than in his picture. And I said like, oh, like you don't look like your picture. And he said, oh yeah, like since I took that photo, like I had a back injury and then I haven't been able to exercise, so I've put on a lot of weight. And I'm like, I didn't say this, I was thinking, like, you're still hot no matter what size you are. Just don't lie to me about you looking this way and I'm expecting one person and then I see a different person because that's not going to make me want to get to know you more. But I felt too awkward, so I still slept with him.
yeah. I see this happening not just in the dating world, but like even like outside of the dating world, like people it's kind of part of the, I guess, I don't know if it comes from our people pleasing nature or what it is, but people, you know, constantly trying to pretend to be something that they think that the
Mm.
other person will perceive to be more attractive or whatever it is that they're trying to convey in the situation. And yeah, it's I think it's so important for people to recognize that genuineness and that authenticity and that willingness to be you as you are and know who that is and know that that's
Mm.
attractive.
Yeah, totally. It's the disease to please. Like we want to just like be whatever the other person wants us to be so that they'll stay around. But it's like, is that a genuine connection? Do they really know you if you're pretending to be someone else the whole time? Even if you're
Right.
just hiding little things. Like, I've like slept with guys and this is so cheesy, but like woken up half an hour earlier and put makeup on and then got back into bed or like brush my teeth. But
Oh my god, there's a
like
movie where this happens. What movie is that? Where
100%.
the girl gets up and she like runs to the bathroom and puts makeup on and then lays back down and pretends like she's asleep.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I've seen it, and that's where I got the inspo from. And I mean, I was like, well, I look hot now, but um, yeah, it's just like the lying, like it's not a genuine connection unless people know who you truly are.
Mhm. Absolutely. So Yeah, I think that that's obviously one of the most important things that people can take from this and to take into the dating situation if you're out there in the dating world is that being your true self and learning to, and I know it sounds so cheesy because people say it all the time, like learning to love yourself first is the most important thing, because then when you love the person that you are, you can show up on a date and be exactly who you are. And if the other person doesn't like it, it's okay. Peace out.
Mm.
8 billion other fish in the sea that I can start looking for someone else who does find all of this avocado-ness attractive. That's what I always tell people. If you're an avocado, be an avocado. Don't try and be a blueberry if you're an avocado.
Yeah, 100%. Um, yeah, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say, but I totally agree with that. And I do identify as an avocado, and I would love people to see me as the beautiful avocado that I am.
Awesome. So, talking about the podcasting experience, how has
Yeah,
that process been for you? I think you said your sister does most of the editing and everything for you, but
yeah.
how has the process been for you as far as like making the podcast and putting your dating experience out there for people to listen to? How has that been for you, both as the experience of physically doing it and then like the emotional experience of, hey, I'm putting my dating life out there for whoever to listen to?
Yeah. I guess I didn't really think it through when I started.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect people to listen. Um, and it's I think kind of therapeutic. Like we built like such a community of people that listen, and like I'm basically just bearing my soul every month and talking about my insecurities and what I want out of someone and the bad things that have happened to me in my past, and my issues with mental illness and all of this like really personal stuff. Just like putting that out there for anyone to hear. It's terrifying, but at the same time, the connections that I build with listeners, like it's so genuine. And I have so many people I can turn to for advice now. And I get advice nonstop, like all on Instagram, DM after, well, not DM after DM, but I'm DMing like the people that listen. And yeah, so that support has been like so motivating as well. Um, and talking about everything so publicly has kind of like eradicated any shame that I felt about my sexuality, my body, um, me dating. Like I can openly talk to my parents, my grandparents, anyone about the people that I'm sleeping with.
Yeah.
And the sexually transmitted diseases that I'm getting.
Oh man. So have you received any feedback or responses that were sort of like, I don't know, I guess I don't want to call it like haters, but haters. People that were like,
um, yeah. Some have said that they feel like it's mean to talk about people that I'm dating behind their back, kind of thing. But I really make a point of like never talking bad about the way someone looks. And I'm not even really talking bad about their personality. I'm just kind of sharing my experience of the date. It's more about like what I've done wrong and my awkwardness, than the other person being like the bad person. It's not a podcast about how shit the guys I'm dating are. It's a podcast about how shit I am at dating. That's my rebuttal to that. And the only other thing that's like bad has been I'll like match with a really cute guy and get really excited, and then he'll tell me like, oh, like you're really cute, but I don't want to be on the podcast. So like people have listened, and then like it's in the way of dating.
yeah. I was going to ask you about that. If anyone has maybe heard your podcast before you contacted them about a date and they were like, no, I'm not going on a date with you because I don't want
Yeah, it's happened a
to.
couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like frustrating every time. But I mean, I'm not famous. Like I'm still very minor, so it hasn't happened a lot. The worst thing though is like when I am dating someone regularly and then I have the convo. Oh, by the way, I have been talking about us on a podcast this whole time. That's more awkward, and uh, that interferes with the relationship a lot.
So when you're dating one person, like for multiple dates, you're not
Yeah.
also having dates with other people at the same time. For the podcast, it's mainly just talking about your relationship with this person while you're just dating them.
Depends how I feel. Like if I want to date other people, then I will keep dating other people. But if I am like really excited about this one person and I want to be exclusive, then the podcast is just then about me and that person for a few episodes or whatever until they break up with me eventually.
So when you find your first boyfriend, what is your plan? Are you just going to stop the podcast? Or are you going to like transition it into something else, or what is your plan there?
Yeah. This is another thing where I haven't thought it through. Um, I don't know. I mean, in my mind, it's just still not going to happen. Like, I still just can't believe that I will get a boyfriend. Like, I just don't see it in my future. I really want it. I'm doing everything I can to get it. But like, it's been 2.5 years now of solid dating. And the most I've gotten is like 4 months with one guy. So like if it happens, I'll be so happy, but I'm not expecting it at this point.
So why is it that you think that you won't ever have a boyfriend?
They just like I just like don't see. I don't know. I don't know why. Sorry, this is so bad. I'm trying to think this through as I'm talking. I just think that from my past experience, guys aren't looking for relationships. I think it's very rare to find a gay man that wants to be in a long-term relationship, even rarer for them to be into feminine guys, even rarer for them to be attracted to me, even rarer for them to be the right sexual position to match me. Like it just is such a small percentage of a percentage of a percentage of people that I could be in a relationship with that I feel like it's statistically unlikely that I'll find him.
Hmm. Okay. I'm going to coach you here for just a second. Like I'm not going to go into this in depth, but what if I told you that your story here is part of what's holding you back from finding your boyfriend?
Me not thinking that there will be a boyfriend. I'm like manifesting it. Is that what you mean?
Well, not necessarily manifesting it. I mean, manifestation does kind of play into this, but we're not even going to go that deep. What I want to say is that as I teach people from my coaching model, it's that it starts with a thought model. That our thoughts, our beliefs create our thoughts create our feelings create our actions, and then our actions create our results. So if the thoughts and the beliefs in the background are I'll never have a boyfriend, or there's such a small chance that I'll ever meet the guy that's, going to be gay, and then that I'm attracted to, and then that's attracted to me, and then, fits my
Mm.
sexual position. And, if you go down this list of, and then you're like, so the percentage chance is so small. This is going to also affect the feeling that you have when showing up for a date, which is then going to
Mm.
affect the way that you act during the date, which then affects the result of the date. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
true. Yeah, because I'm going in with the mindset that like this isn't going to be anything serious.
Right. And this,
I guess
and
it's just hard not to get beaten down.
oh yeah, absolutely. I understand. Like the dating process it's one of these processes where we have to be willing to be uncomfortable. It's not comfortable. And anyone
Yeah,
out there in the dating scene right now, like you have my heart and my compassion because it's I was in it for years, and there were so many times, and my best friend can attest to this, that I came home and I was just like, F this. I give up.
yeah,
I give up. I don't even think I want a boyfriend anymore. And but what I recognize is that the way that I was going into the dates, I was showing up. And even with my current husband, like when we first started dating, he told me, he was like, do you realize how mean you were to me when we first started dating?
no.
Yes, because I had just gone through an ugly divorce. And so like when he showed interest in me, I was like, oh yeah, here comes another one. And so I was just like so standoffish and like had walls up. And he persisted. He was like, I'm here to tell you your life is about to get better. So you can put down the walls. And now we're married. I believed him. So, but really it
That is
was,
so cute.
Yeah, it was. It was very cute. But like really, I can look back at my dating life and I can see now in all of the dates that I was having, like I was so standoffish. I was so, excuse my French, I was so bitchy because it was like I felt like if I could hurt them first, then my feelings won't get hurt when this doesn't work out. But then, of course,
Yeah.
this pushes them away and makes it less likely
Yeah.
that they're going to want to be my boyfriend, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm not being bitchy. Like I'm going in there with the attitude that like I want to have a good time. But yeah, I guess in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not walking in there thinking I'm about to meet the love of my life. I'm walking
Yeah.
in there thinking, okay, like let's have a fun date. Um, so yeah, maybe I am acting like maybe I'm not showing enough like interest or that I care because I'm just thinking this is like a one date thing.
Yeah. Pay attention to that on your next date. Like when you go on the date,
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to the thoughts that are coming up and then like look how you're reacting to those thoughts. Like what is this
Mm-hmm.
creating in my emotional experience and then what are my actions that I'm taking right now? And then just take note of like little actions you might be taking that are kind of like wall or, maybe a little bit like keep the distance or
Yeah.
maybe just pay attention to stuff like that and notice it.
Yeah, I definitely will. I have a date coming up, so I'm gonna go in there with such a different attitude now.
Yeah. Just be curious about that because here's the thing, you'll start to notice some really interesting stuff about like what's going on
Mm,
inside of you in these dates, and that's a powerful place to be in already, is just to notice that.
right. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Thank you. That's like such good coaching.
Very, very welcome. I wanted to offer that to you there. So yeah, let's say what is your, because we're kind of getting close here to the end of the 1 hour mark. So, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you would give? I'm gonna say especially gay men coming into the dating world. Like the we're talking about like the
Mm.
gay guys that are in their late teens, early 20s that are just coming into like finding their sexuality and trying to find a boyfriend. What's the biggest piece of advice that you would give
Oh my gosh.
them?
That's like emotionally hard to say. I just like don't get so terrified off by the people on Grinder. That's like not representative of the gay community as a whole. You will find your tribe. There are people like you that think like you, and just persist, persist, persist. And get out there, meet as many people as you can. Don't do anything you don't want to do, and just enjoy the ride.
Oh, I think that's solid advice, especially the don't do anything you don't want to do part. Like I totally agree
Yeah,
with you there. I don't know how many different times in my dating experience I caught myself like doing stuff with guys that I didn't really want to do just because I was like, well, maybe this will get them to like me. Maybe this will
yeah.
get them to commit.
And then if you're honest, like I just slept with a guy, or was sleep like about to, and we were like in position, and then just before I was like, look, actually, like I don't want to do this. Like I'm sorry, and he was like, thank you so much for telling me now, because like if you had told me afterwards, that would have been horrible, and like I would have felt so terrible. So thank you for telling me. So guys like want you to want to be there. So if you don't want to be there, they don't want to get with you. So yeah,
Yeah,
don't force yourself into it.
right. And one thing that I would add to that is if you tell someone what it is that you genuinely want to do and they have a very emotionally reactive response to it, such as anger or they break down in tears, just to recognize that this isn't about you and that it's still okay. It's not that you're a mean or cruel person. Like if you're getting ready, like you said in your story here, where you're just about to have sex with someone and then you like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. This guy could have been like, what the man, like, he could have had that sort of reaction. And what I want to encourage people to do is that even if the other person has a reaction that's not the one that you anticipated, if you're being genuine, note that their reaction, that's about them and their thoughts and feelings about the situation. It doesn't have to mean that you're mean or you're cruel or you're whatever they might say about you. Like you know that you're being genuine And that's what's important to know there.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to say, talk about in closing before we let everyone go? I think we've got a lot of good stuff on here for people to take away from this. We've talked about self-image and confidence, femme shaming, online dating, and being your authentic self and how important that is. So anything else you want to say, talk about before we go?
I'd just like to say thank you for having me on as a guest. This has been such a rewarding experience for me to get some one-on-one coaching from the Seth Lusk. And I've had a great time.
Awesome. Yeah, you are my very first guest on my podcast. So I was, to be honest, I was a little bit nervous going into this. I was like, what if I'm not good at interviewing this person? Like, I don't know how do you do this? Like, what happens if we get on there, we're both just sitting there scratching our heads like, well, what do we talk about? So I was like, well, I guess we're gonna find out. So thank you for being my first guest on the podcast. It's been really fun and interesting, and I've enjoyed the conversation. So, if you ever want to come back on the podcast again and talk about something, you just let me know.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll definitely come back as soon as I can.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And listeners out there, I know you've enjoyed listening to Jono and I have our conversation. If you want to hear more from Jono, he has his own podcast, Desperately Seeking, and it's all about his dating experience trying to find his first boyfriend. So go have a listen. I, for one, absolutely love the episodes. They're very entertaining. And as I've said before, Jono has this very infectious laugh. So you'll find yourself kind of like laughing along with the episodes because his laugh is so infectious. So go have a listen. You'll enjoy it. Approach it with a very open and light heart because it's very fun material, very different than the kind of podcast that I do where it's all about educating. His is, it's a fun experience. So go have a listen. Desperately Seeking. You won't be disappointed. All right. So great having you all on here listening. Thank you, Jono, for coming. And I will talk to you all next week. Ciao. Hey, thank you for listening in this week. I hope you enjoyed the content of this episode. If you did, please subscribe or follow this podcast to receive the newest episodes every week as I bring them to you here on the Connect Your Health to Life coaching channel. Ratings, reviews, and comments are always appreciated. These allow me to know more of what my listeners would like in the podcast and allow for more people who may be searching for a podcast just like this one to find the Connect Your Health to Life coaching channel. If you would like more information about me and the work that I do with my clients one-on-one, then please visit my website at www.slch.ch. Again, that is www.slch.ch. You can also find me on social media on Instagram at SethLusk_coaching. Again, that is SethLusk_coaching. And on Facebook in my free Facebook group community called A Healthy Life Connection. We would love to have you in the group, and it's only 3 membership questions that you have to answer to join. And again, it's entirely free. And if you need any further information or just want to say hello, feel free to send me an email directly at slusk.health@slch.ch. Again, that is slusk.health@slch.ch. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to our next time together. Ciao.